If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
What happens when you turn up the volume in the headphones? For Christ's sakes, I'm deaf. I'm partially deaf. But even for God's sakes, whoever left up the headphones, the volume on the headphones, oh, holy crap. Well, I have tinnitus anyway. And now, after tonight, after that little jaunt with the headphones over there, good God. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. You got a belly up to the bar. We've kept you seated. It's great to see you back, including Mary Brockman, who has her name embroidered on her very own seat. Dink is going to be your bartender tonight. He pours with the best of them, and the lava lamp is, in fact, lighted to my left, your right. Does that not look like something out of the movie Alien, like something that the Weyland-Yutani Corporation decided at the last moment? You know, this will be a great thing to see just where this goes. Holy crap. We don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all here at the saloon. Nothing is sacred. Speech is free, but the booze is not. All that we ask is that you flush the toilet, jiggle the handle. Don't forget to tip your waitress. Tonight, it is Tuesday. It's December 26th, the year of our Lord 2017. It is post-Christmas, and tonight, it just happens to be the Whiskey and Politics show because at the last moment, Kari Baxter Donovan. Well, we agreed last Thursday that Kari Baxter Donovan. I was chatting to her because one of my guests that I was going to be speaking to, Alan Thomas, did not appear. Now hold that thought just for a moment. Anyway, Kari Baxter Donovan. I spoke to her very briefly, maybe about a half hour or so, on the show, and we talked some political stuff, and I said, hey, Thursday, Kari, why don't you come back on Tuesday? I asked Dan if he would be interested, and I didn't get a response from Dan, but you know what? Hey, it's Christmas week. If anyone at all responds, I'm shocked. Well, Kari, I was kind enough to ask Kari last week, and more important, she was kind enough to accept last Thursday. So it's going to be the Whiskey and Politics show tonight for everyone. Okay, the level looks pretty good. Let's pull this up just a bit. I have to say I love this new board. We have an Arrakis Systems ArcTalk Blue board where a lot of the stuff runs over Bluetooth. I'm still having a tough time kind of getting over that because it's so damn simple and easy to use. Anyway, we're going to go from here over to, oh, damn, where's my manners? Hello to Mary Brockman. She's in chat. Hello to Joe, Jersey Joe. He's in chat. That was his show that you just were listening to. He's on every Monday through Friday right here on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com, quick like a bunny, and you'll hear his show. You'll hear my show. Oh, and remember I was talking about the lava lamp being lit I don't look like some kind of a funny, odd creature. If you want to watch the show, that was going to be my reference. If you want to watch the show, go to the SHR Media Facebook page. You can watch it live right now. Or you can go to the SHR Media YouTube page. You can watch it live right now. And let's see, Mary Brockman, she's here. Hey, Kari Baxter Donovan is here. She's going to be talking. Anyway, that's what I was saying. Kari Baxter Donovan and I were talking about whiskey, and then I said, this is a great title for a show, Whiskey and Politics. Why not? Now, let's go back for a second. Merry Christmas to everyone. I hope everyone had a good Christmas. Mine was very, 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 very quiet. Small, winky, and quiet. Did I mention quiet? Okay, you may have sensed last Thursday that there was a bit of chagrin because BZ was promoting the crap out of this particular of my last Thursday show, because I was going to have a paranormal researcher on, and he was a Bigfoot expert, researcher, and hunter. And I've spoken to him before. I've met him in person. I've been on his show, calling in a couple of times. Great guy. His name is Alan Thomas. And unfortunately, he did not show up. And I was a bit chagrined, taken aback, and I spent a little while getting on social media, and I said, I guess there's something wrong. Well, boy, do I feel like an asshole. And here's why. Alan had a really good reason for not calling and not being on the show. He had a heart attack. So, from me to Alan, my greatest apologies. I already corresponded with him. He's okay, because he's already texting, using his thumbs like mad. So, boy, did I feel bad. And I told him I am ever so sorry. He's got an open invitation to be here anytime. I would absolutely love to talk to Alan, get into his background, find out all sorts of stuff about him. Because since that show, since Thursday, I've been looking at Bigfoot shows. Let me give a little plug here. You know, I'm not going to get... I'm not going to get time to get to my stuff. Okay, I tell you what. We're going to put that on hold just for a second, because I really want to get to this. There are excellent reasons to be happy these days, and I try to start the show with this. And
If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
There's a good thing to talk about and a very bad thing to talk about. Let's talk about the good things first.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
The good thing is that from YahooNews.com, it says U.S. department store stocks jump on holiday spending record. Shares of U.S. department store stocks jumped on Tuesday as MasterCard Incorporated said shoppers spent over $800 billion, that's B with a B, billion dollars during the season, more than ever before, boosted by growing consumer confidence, rising employment, and early discounts. Let's see, and what was it that Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, et al., blah, 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 said? Oh, yeah, as soon as Donald Trump gets elected, the stock market's going to tank. For those of you who are just listening on shrmedia.com, this is why it behooves you to go to the watching portion, the visual portion of the show on Facebook and also on YouTube, because this is a visual for Mr. Cuban and his comment about that. Sarah Quinlan, head of market insights for MasterCard Advisors, disclosed the figure after the payments processor's analytics arm published its Spending Pulse retail report. The report said holiday sales in stores and online between November 1st and December 24th rose 4.9%, the fastest year-on-year pace of increase since 2011. MasterCard, which tracks spending by combining sales activity in its payments network with estimates of cash and other payment forms, excluded automobile sales from its figures, which, by the way, I was tootling around at CarMax.com the other day. The place was crushed with people looking at cars, more than I've seen in quite some time. That was the good news. Now, unfortunately, locally in California, there's some bad news. From FoxNews.com, California Highway Patrol officer dead in Christmas Eve crash. A California Highway Patrol officer was struck and killed by a suspected drunk driver on Christmas Eve, officials said. Officer Andrew Camilleri, 33, was in the passenger seat of a parked patrol car when the vehicle was hit around 11 p.m. Sunday in the San Francisco Bay Area. Camilleri was in the patrol car with Officer Jonathan Velasquez, who was sitting in the driver's seat, and he suffered minor injuries in the crash. They happened to be, by the way, in one of the CHP Ford Explorers, the SUVs. The 33-year-old officer was transported to St. Rose Hospital in Hayward, where he was pronounced dead. The California Highway Patrol said the driver who struck the officer's vehicle was 22 years old, under the influence of alcohol and possibly marijuana. Stop right there. Colorado is having a massive problem with marijuana and people deciding that they're going to get into vehicles, machinery, etc., and drive them. And Colorado says marijuana, no big deal. Washington says marijuana, no big deal. California says marijuana, no big deal. THC, no big deal. Who cares? Folks, when you get into an automobile these days, you really do not know under what forms of designer drugs, alcohol, dope, etc., people might be laboring. An important safety tip at night, by the way, every night, but especially during the holidays. Keep this in your brain when you're driving at night and it's dark, because this is an important safety tip from me to you. When it's night, impaired drivers, drunk drivers, if they happen to be wrong-way drivers, they're going to be coming at you in the number one lane. That means the far left lane. So at night, if you're on a freeway, as frequently as you can, stay out of the far left lane. Because if any drunk driver, impaired driver, gets going the wrong way on the freeway, they're going to be in the number one lane. Now ask yourself, why might that be? It's because they think that's the right lane, going their direction, and they don't want to be quite so obvious. So, especially these holidays, the Christmas holidays, next Monday, the New Year, if you happen to be driving, number one, I'm sorry for you. You must be going to a party, or I stay the hell off the highways. That's one reason. Just remember BZ's safety axiom with regard to drunk drivers at night. You stay out of the far left lane, because a drunk driver going the wrong way on a freeway, as far as they're concerned, they think they're in the right lane. And now you understand my concern. The California Highway Patrol said the driver who struck the officer's vehicle was 22 years old, laboring under the influence of alcohol and possibly marijuana, as I indicated. The unidentified driver was also returning from a party, Christmas party. Assistant Chief Ernest Sanchez said the driver was traveling at a high speed on Interstate 880 when he slammed into the back of the patrol car parked on the right shoulder. The crash shut down southbound lanes of the highway for hours. Camilleri, listen to this. Camilleri began his career with the California Highway Patrol last year on August 22nd, 2016. He leaves behind a wife and 3 children who expected him to be home to open Christmas presents, the Los Angeles Times reports. We offer our thoughts and prayers to his family, friends, and colleagues as we collectively mourn this heartbreaking tragedy, the CHP Golden Gate Division said Monday. These are cautionary tales. Depending on what kind of drugs, etc., are legal in your state of the nation, just as I indicate, be cognizant, not just during the Christmas holidays, not just during the New Year and the New Year's week, but any damn time you get on a freeway or sometimes even on a highway, a bidirectional highway, 2 lanes, 4 lanes, just be aware that around you, particularly at night, there are going to be people that are laboring under any number of drugs. And some of the drugs under which they're laboring may be lawfully prescribed, ill-prescribed,
If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
opioids, etc., but still under the influence. Buzzed drinking is illegal drinking. Buzzed driving under the influence of drugs is every bit as illegal. Colorado's crashes, its accident rate has gone up markedly. More people are dying on the highways in Colorado than ever before. If you doubt that, unfortunately, I say check the statistics. Well, it looks like we've got somebody calling in, and it looks like that particular somebody is Kari Baxter Donovan. Now, we spoke to Kari last night, and I want to say this because, as everyone is wont to know, I call Kari the East Coast political goddess because she's wise beyond her years. She knows all things political, all things that have to do with politics, and all things that have to do with politics on the East Coast. So, without further ado, I want to welcome Kari Baxter Donovan to the show. Hello, Kari. How are you doing?
Hello, Merry Christmas. I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Good. Merry Christmas to you. First off, did you go to any Christmas parties?
I think I did. I don't remember. It seems like it was so long ago. Let me see. I'm sure I did.
Last night? You don't remember? Okay. All right. Okay.
Well, I didn't go on Christmas because I have 3 children, so I was doing family stuff. But I went to a Christmas party at some point within the last week.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember when exactly.
Okay, that's all right. Now, you're forgiven. That's perfectly understandable because you... So basically what you're saying is you stayed at home yesterday because you had kids.
Yes, I had kids. And so I was doing the family mom Christmas thing and didn't go to any parties on Christmas. Did
you guys happen to have a good Christmas, as a matter of fact?
We had a fantastic Christmas. My little family and I, but we had a great time. My son is home from college, and it's good to just be with all 3 of my kids together, and that makes me very happy. And laughing and spending time together. So
okay,
it was perfect.
If anybody happens to be again watching on Facebook or watching on YouTube, this is me with a visual. And the visual relates to, are you kidding me? You have a kid that's in college?
I do, yes.
Okay. This is the first thought that just blurted out of my brain housing group, but you don't look old enough to have a kid that just came back from college.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. I'll have to hang out here more often.
Just telling you the truth. Good Lord. Okay, all right. Settle down, BZ. Settle down. Now, we were speaking and writing. We send tweets and messages and whatnot back and forth to each other about who's going to be on the show and what kind of topics and whatnot. And I named the show tonight Whiskey and Politics because you're a devotee of whiskey. And I have to say that I know a little bit about all right, I'm pretty well damn acquainted with vodka. Vodka and I, again, it's a visual if you happen to be on YouTube or Facebook. Vodka and I are like this, okay? All right. This is me. Usually I'm going to have this T-shirt made. And the T-shirt is going to say, "Liver, shut the hell up, you're fine." Because that's right. The way that my life goes. But I have to admit, willingly, that I really know little about whiskey. Now, having said that, Sackhead Sean, who I just spoke to about half an hour ago or so, just outside the studio, he knows a ton about whiskey. So if you wanted to...
So it sounds like we'll have to... Yeah, well, I'll have to try to go out and see. I know I could take Sean. I know for sure I could take Sean.
Are you... Oh, wait. Are you cognizant of what you're saying? You just hurled...
I am.
You just hurled a big damn gauntlet on the table, and I heard it crash from here, way over on the left coast, from you, way over on the right coast.
Come on, it's Sean. It's Sean. We're talking about Sean.
I know. I heard that gauntlet being hurled to Sean.
He can barely get out. He can barely get out the front door of his house without falling down and doing something. I mean,
Sean, dude. I hope you're not hearing this. I hope you are not listening because you're gonna be so upset.
Sean knows I love him big time, but I'm for sure I know I could take him.
All right, now I have to preface that by saying you are aware of the fact that he's from Boston, and the Irish runs through him pretty strongly, and the Irish have been known in their time to toss down perhaps one or two drinks now and then. And
I know that.
Okay, and that said, you still want to throw down that gauntlet. Is that correct? Am I
do. And beside that, I say go big or go home. If I'm going to throw it down there, I can't take it back and embarrass myself. I mean, now I'm going to have to do it. That's just kind of how I roll.
Okay. All right. Go big or go home. All right. Well, then, I know Sean likes whiskey. I think Clint does. I'm fairly sure that he does. One thing that
Clint could probably take me. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, pretty sure.
Really? Now, okay, stop right there.
So.
Now, I have to ask you, why is it that you think Clint can outdrink you, but Sean cannot outdrink you? I'm really curious about this.
Like I said, poor Sean. He can't even get outside. He can't leave his house without something happening to him. That will, cause him some, stumble. Stumble on something.
That's kind of true. I didn't want to acknowledge that. Okay, right. All right. Now, we got about 5 more minutes before the bottom of the hour break. And I want to ask this because I've got another year. And I didn't do this year because I wasn't sure, because I'm not well-versed at all about whiskey. So I was thinking, all right, I want to get these two guys that own SHR, I want to get them maybe a nice bottle of whiskey. But I want to get them something that is kind of exclusive, but isn't going to cost me like, $100 a bottle or something just way outrageous. Isn't there something called Pappy something or other that is like $125, $200 a bottle, something like that?
Oh yeah, sure. You're going to find a lot of things like that. I would go with.
So if I want to get something,
I don't know what the prices are, but
if I want to get something fairly reasonable, what should I look at? And when I say reasonable, I would try not to break like the $50 mark right around in there.
Okay, I'd have to look up the prices, but I'm thinking Tullamore Dew, Buffalo Trace, and Bushmills. Maybe
Tullamore Dew.
Again, I don't. Tullamore Dew it would be my favorite, my number one.
Okay.
I would guess that would be probably about 40 or 50.
And you
Buffalo Trace, I'm thinking, is about 35-ish.
Okay.
Be off. I don't know.
Well, then, if you're talking about something that doesn't cost, I don't know. Let's get semi-wacky just for a second. If you're talking about something that doesn't go way far over $100, let's say I won the lottery. what would be a good whiskey kind of semi around that price range as a gift? You want to give a nice gift,
like a Glenmorangie, like a Glenmorangie. Well, and it depends on the year and the cask. So you could go and get like a Johnny Walker, and they've got the different labels depending on how long it's been in the cask. So Johnny Walker is a good, solid brand that's been around for a long time. Most people like it.
Okay,
but it depends on if you get which label you get.
Funny you should mention that, because just as you were talking, just as you and I were conversing about whiskey, who should appear in the chat room other than Whiskey Dale?
Who's that?
Whiskey Dale, hello.
Dale, he probably knows. Whiskey Dale knows for sure.
Hello to Whiskey Dale. Oddly enough, we happen to be talking right up your alley, so to speak, sir. Mm-hmm. Now we're going to be going to a break in about 3 minutes or so. And just to kind of pique your interest, what I'd like to do is ask you what you think. In other words, I'm going to throw out some stories when we come back from the break. Mm-hmm. And okay. I'm going to ask you, in your opinion, of some of these, or something that you choose an alternate, what you might think some of the very tippy-top stories of 2017 may be. And also, when we come back, and if you don't feel like pulling it out of left field somewhere or right field, I have some topics for you so that you can decide. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, when we come back, you first tell us where you are now writing for a particular website. What is that website? Where can you be found writing there?
That is at www.bigleaguepolitics.com.
Okay, and you've written a fairly decent amount of stories there, if I'm not mistaken. Have you not? 5, 10, something like that? And you also have, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of news stories that you've written? Or, Kari, are you there? Okay. All right, maybe Kari had to go to she had to go balance her checkbook. She had to go clean her fish tank, which that's okay, too. So I tell you what, Kari, why don't you call us back? Something happened to the line. And anyway, we're going to go to a break. This is actually a perfect time for a break. So we're going to go to a break. Folks, you're listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct here on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. You can click on air, and then right there, just like I'm looking at it right there, we have a chat room. Go get into the chat room. Let's see. Is this Kari Donovan back?
I'm so sorry. I called back and it said it wasn't a working number, so I think you're not working over there.
Oh, I'm working. I'm working hard. I work hard every night.
Like, we're working.
Yes.
The operator says we're not working. So, yeah, I don't know where I got cut off, but I was saying that I was over at Big League Politics, and I think I have like 42 articles there now.
Holy crap, 42 articles. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and they've been very cool to me, and I really appreciate that. That's the most I've had in one place, freelance. Yeah, so pretty jazzed about that.
Folks, perfect. We are talking, and we will be talking after the break, back again to Kari Baxter Donovan. She is the East Coast political goddess. We're going to go to a break. You're listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Don't go anywhere. Come right back. Go into chat, listen live, and watch. Folks, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't go anywhere.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads radio show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, You can catch River Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe right here on SHRmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m., Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Power brokers use corrupt politicians, deceptive Islam, and lies from establishment media to turn the once shining city on a hill into the city of the blind. What do the elites fear? One man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me at SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Spreaker, iTunes, and YouTube for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hello, I'm Tim Hart. I'm the guy BZ hires due to his shameless contract with the SHR Media Network to voice his promos. He'd like me to tell you that the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be found on SHR Media Network, Spreaker, and YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American media maggots won't. You'll find that the speech is free, but the drinks are not. There, in the saloon, just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ is sending his personal drones of freedom into the wheelhouses and ossicles of lovers of sovereignty and liberty nationally and globally. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, BZ swears that no rights were harmed in the making of this promo.
This is Jersey Joe, host of the Reverb Common Sense, and you're listening to SHRmedia.com.
Folks, you are in fact listening to the SHR Media Network. You're listening to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Erebus, and we are live and direct on the SHR Media Network. It is Tuesday, the year of our Lord, December 26th, the day right after Christmas, 2017. We've been talking to Kari Baxter Donovan, who is the East Coast political goddess, and she works now for Big League Politics, and she has written 42. That's also a visual, and I have to promote it. You got to go to YouTube or Facebook if you want to watch this thing live, and shrmedia.com if you just want to listen. You're cleaning your fish tank or balancing your checkbook. And Kari Baxter Donovan, welcome back. I have to ask you one question, one quick question first, because I don't think you've written an article about this, and well, maybe you have, and if you have, let me know. But the question is this: what the hell is up with Joy Villa?
Oh, I haven't written an article about it, but I've been writing my thoughts about it on Facebook and Twitter. I'm very disappointed with her.
What the hell? Now she's accused Corey Lewandowski. Just today, she's accused Corey Lewandowski of, fill in the blank, whatever. So it's to the point now where
Sexual assault.
There's only a few people that she hasn't accused. One of them is Godzilla. I know that for a fact. I talked to the dude.
Right.
I got really wet doing it.
Right.
The second one is...
he better be careful, huh?
Yeah, no kidding. Clint. I don't think she's accused Clint. I'm pretty sure that she hasn't accused Sean, and I almost feel left out because I know she hasn't accused me. And so other than that, I mean, it's almost a cast of thousands. What the hell is up with her, please?
So I have not met her. I do know a couple of people who are close to her. And I have met Corey Lewandowski, who was a gentleman. He was smart, spirited. I've written about this on Twitter a little bit. I met him through the Black Americans for a Better Future group in D.C. where he spoke, and he was warmly accepted. People were very excited that he was there. He was a gentleman. He spent time talking to people. And these were all Ken's group. And
right, Ken McClinton.
He was just a nice guy. Yes, he was a bit aggressive in the fact that he's kind of East Coast. He would be considered aggressive by some in some circles, like California, where everything's kind of laid back, and he would be spirited, high energy, right? He would be seen as someone who might be maybe not aggressive is not the word, assertive perhaps. He speaks fast. He's kind of that way. So originally I thought, well, maybe she was just saying that she felt like he was just kind of a big personality. And then I realized that she's actually filed assault charges on him, which to me is shocking and frustrating. And I've written about it on Facebook and Twitter that I think that he should file assault charges on her, because in the photo, she's leaning into him, she's got her arm on him, her mouth is wide open, big, huge smile, and she's got herself on him. And I'm not a fan of hers to begin with. And when I heard that she was running for Congress, I get a little bit offended that people are kind of brought into this movement when they have no background in politics or campaigning or anything. And then she's, switching her ideology from Obama to Sanders to Trump, just like so easily. Why are we all, this kind of celebrity worship? It bothers me. So then for her to pull this stunt, her story doesn't make any sense. That he smacked her on the behind, and then she said, "I'll file charges on you," and then he smacked her on the behind again. What man is going to do that in this climate?
Well,
I don't believe the story.
Certainly not these days, but it's a strange story and a strange situation in terms of, does everyone that happens to come around her feel some kind of inexplicable magnetism where males feel compelled to do exactly that, to harass her or actually assault her in some fashion? Why her and nobody else? That is just, I'm sorry.
Well, I actually tweeted her that question. Hey, how come Corey Lewandowski didn't touch me? Because I was alone with him for a second and he didn't even touch me. He didn't even look at me. How come? But I was looking at the photos of her in that dress, and it's made specifically, perfectly to emphasize her butt. So on one hand, I don't really have a lot of sympathy for her. If she was like, a very demure woman and, very soft-spoken and these things happen to her, I might have a little bit more concern for her. But she's out there wearing plastic wrap. I don't know. Maybe when men get around her, they feel like, her butt's free to the public. I don't know. I have a really bad attitude about these stories. I really do.
I don't know.
I'm like, yawn.
Yeah, how can you account for that? I sure as hell can't account for that. Besides,
I wanted to write an article about it, to tell you the truth, because there's so much out there now exposing her and who she is. And this is a hot-button topic for me.
Oh, yeah.
I did want to write an article about it, but I didn't.
Now, you write at Big League Politics, and you say that you have had 42 articles published in Big League Politics. Can you tell us about, let's say, your newest article over there?
Okay, so the one that I have up today is it's a picture of Hillary sipping from her teacup, and this just tickled me. I have so much fun sometimes with these things, and it's our long national emergency and the legacy of the Clinton Foundation. So that's the title of the article, and it's about the Magnitsky. I can't even say it. Magnitsky Act, the executive order that was put out last week. So what I'm trying to do is I want to try to deconstruct some of these things that are happening, that are out there, the executive orders, what Trump is doing, the Department of Treasury, some of these very complex issues. I'm trying to deconstruct them, break them down a little bit, so that people who haven't been obsessed with politics like I have been can understand some of the dynamics of the things that are happening. So in this particular article, I'm trying to break down that there was an executive order that was put out last week by President Trump on, I'm trying to get the exact name of it because it's so long, blocking the property of persons involved in serious human rights abuse or corruption. And then the day after, the Treasury Department released a statement titled the Global Magnitsky Sanctions, with a list of people who are going to be under those sanctions. What's interesting about this, to me, is that that global Magnitsky, I can't even say it, but you know what I'm saying, the global sanctions list, that comes from someplace. And this is where Trump is brilliant, and the people around him are brilliant, because that was something that was signed into law by Obama.
Now, I'm looking, I don't know if this was in the article, but I'm looking at at Big League Politics. You also have an article called Deconstructed, President Donald J. Trump, Year One of Making America Great Again. And I'm going to put the link. I'm going to put the link up in chat here very briefly. Anyway, what were your impressions of President Trump in Year One?
Well, so personally, I really am very happy with President Trump because my big thing was the whole tax reform, and he got that done. And I didn't really think that he was actually going to get it done, and he did. So I was very happy with him. But this article comes from that was a statement that was put out by the White House, President Donald J. Trump, Year One of Making America Great Again, and it's a document that lists over 150 actions, 12 categories, and is a pretty big, long list. And what's impressive about that is that, first of all, that it's long, and you can go and you can find out. And what I've done in this article is try to show the promises that he made as a candidate, and if they line up with this document that the White House put out. Basically, this is a list of accomplishments that they want you to know about. And, of course, the media hasn't covered most of them.
Right, exactly.
So that's what's really impressive, is that this is the first time that I can remember that a White House has basically just said, we're just gonna take over the media. And, of course, technology, Reagan didn't have the technology, didn't have Twitter and Facebook. You couldn't do Facebook Live and just go to a press conference and do it. Everything had to go through the press. So on one hand, he's really battling the media constantly, but he's able to get his message out. So this list of accomplishments is pretty, it's pretty massive, and it really does, I think, line up with the promises he made as candidate. So I'm trying to show where there are some links, so that I want my average reader to say, show me the money. I want a link to prove what you say. I don't want people just to take what I say, and believe whatever I say. I want to show them the proof. So that's what I did in that article. Here's
a couple of quotes from that article, and you write, many of the bullet points in the document for the success of the first year are in reference to the executive orders Trump has signed in 2017. You provide a link to those, and folks can go to the article and click on it. According to the list, the areas of impact are economics by creating jobs and creating wealth, employment by ending job-killing regulations, promoting fair and reciprocal trade, advancing American energy dominance, protecting American people and their homeland, restoring law and order in American communities, making government accountable, combating opioids, protecting the sanctity of life, serving American veterans, promoting peace through strength, restore respect for the United States throughout the world, and to advance our interests. Each and every one of those bullet points are the exact opposite of what leftists, Democrats, and the American media maggots have been promoting for the last 8 years. It's absolutely anathema to them. And you continue and you write, compare and contrast with candidate Trump's contract with the American voter, and again, you provide a link in the article, which he released before the November 8th, 2016 election, and he promised to address middle-class tax relief and the Simplifications Act, end the Offshoring Act, American Energy and Infrastructure Act, School Choice and Education Opportunity Act, repeal and replace Obamacare Act, Affordable Child Care and Elder Care Act, End Illegal Immigration Act, Restoring Community Safety Act, Restoring National Security Act, Clean Up Corruption in Washington Act. All of those things have then resulted in this. Unemployment is at, and just as you said, it's exactly as you said. Unemployment in the Hispanic community is at an historic low. Unemployment in the black community is at an historic low. It's an unemployment for 17 years. That's an historic low. The XL pipeline was approved. The EPA quit a bag of regulations. It goes on and on and on. However, that said, that's exactly why there are three branches of government. There's a fourth branch, the deep state. Unelected bureaucrats who sometimes have just as much power as the other three branches. Anyway, folks, you got to read that article. And was there another article that you thought that you wanted to bring to the attention of folks that are here listening right now?
Well, somebody I really like to follow is Judicial Watch, and they do a lot of their own media, too. It's really impressive. But what Judicial Watch has done, and I've had a chance to meet Tom Fitton, who's the president of Judicial Watch, and speak at one of our conservative groups out here. And so I get a lot of this, from him. But what he's done, he's very passionate about, he's very good at, and his desire is to save America with his Freedom of Information Act lawsuit. And that's what he talked about when I saw him. And he's just very exciting, to listen to because he's deeply committed. But he's also deeply committed to President Trump. Because not necessarily have anything to do with President Trump, but the fact that he's the president and that he's fighting against all of this corruption. And that's the meat, the heart and the soul of Judicial Watch. And so they do many of the things that we are getting turned over and getting the information, out through the media is from their Judicial Watch's Freedom of Information lawsuit. So the article isn't all that awesome. I try to do, the best I could trying to get attention for him and for what he's doing because I really admire him and that group. The article, I don't know, like I said, I try to make it, I try to add a couple of things, make it look a little jazzy and get people to put their eyes on, support him and encourage him and to know that a lot of what we see happening right now with all of this Russian, the big stories, that's coming out of Judicial Watch. So
there are two websites.
I would really like people to pay attention to him.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. I go to Judicial Watch. It's judicialwatch.org, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. That's a site that, folks, you should always go to. The other one I like to go to is ACLJ, the American Center for Law and Justice.org.
Right.
And both of those, if you go to those on a regular basis, you're going to have a great idea of what really is happening in this country in terms of why is it that we have to sue the shite out of the government to get them to tell the truth? And that's essentially what these two organizations exist for. They file FOIA requests in order to get information out into the light of day. They're not even really focused on Trump much right now because it's so early in his presidency. But the opacity that's occurred in the past 8 years is such that the deep state, various elements of the government do not want to reveal what is occurring and what has occurred in the past. Now, that said, I said that we'd get back to, and we got about 10 minutes left. I said that we want to get back to some of the top stories, and I want to tickle your brain and find out what you think about any of these stories. I'm going to name a few, and you tell me out of these or anything else that I may have missed what you think the top story for 2017 may be. We had North Korea.
Okay.
We had sexual misconduct. We had terror attacks all throughout the world, United States, of course, but all throughout the world they were continuing. We had Bobby Mueller as special counsel and all the crap that he's doing. We had the Las Vegas massacre, the likes of which we still don't know why it occurred. And the FBI has come out recently, by the way, and said, we think it might be another year before we tell you why this happened. Then we had the NFL protests. And then we had the first year of President Donald Trump. We also had the hurricanes that blasted through Texas and the southern seaboard, and the hurricane that smacked Puerto Rico. We had in California, we had the massive Napa fire, and that also the other fire that's going on down in Southern California that decimated massive areas of Ventura County, San Bernardino County, and now that big complex is the number one largest fire documented in the history of California, and it's not out. Also, one of the other things I was thinking is the economic boom. So, of all those potential topics, what do you think is going to end up being really the most impactful story for 2017, or maybe something that I left out?
So, here, this one, it might take a minute to really get what I'm saying here.
Okay.
So, don't jump in and tell me that it's crazy, because it is kind of crazy.
It's crazy.
I'll have to make my point.
I'm saying it up front.
It's
It's crazy.
Story. Yeah, it's the NFL story. I think that there's some tragic deaths, and that's horrifying. So not to belittle any of those deaths or what those families have gone through, because those are big stories and will impact those people's lives. But as far as and to me, everything comes down to politics and what is going to affect, what is going to change people's minds, how are they going to vote, so much of our policy that affects, our day-to-day comes from what people believe about the country or about our history or about our policies. And so the NFL thing to me is shocking because I remember starting a hashtag, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, boycott the NFL. And at the time, it was like, you're never going to get Americans to boycott the NFL. There's no way. Do you remember back when, and it feels like a million years ago, but when the NFL was like as American as apple pie. And now to see the economic indicators, that's what I call it, the economic indicators that Marxism is dead. We just have to keep pushing it off the cliff until it's completely gone. But what I see that changed the NFL was Marxism. And to see people rejecting it, even if they don't know why they're rejecting it, but to say enough, we've had enough. We've had enough of the kneeling. We've had enough of the feminism and the pink socks and the social justice. We just want to watch football if you're not going to let us. For a couple of years, I think people were sick of it, but they watched anyway because it was football. Remember? We had to have our football. So to me, that says that people are so ready to get rid of being dominated and forced into this social justice stuff that they would give up football. That's incredible to me. And it gives a lot of politicians hope, strategists, analysts, people are finally saying, hey, wait a minute, the movement is on the people or with the people. They're ready to get rid of the Obama Marxism. So to me, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I think is the biggest story.
The way you put it, though, I have to admit that's very insightful. It's sort of it's a hashtag for everything, in a way. The NFL lost sight of its audience. Who the hell wants the NFL to succeed? Think about that for a second. Do leftists give one shit about the NFL? No, they'd rather see the NFL go away. They'd rather see as far as they're concerned, the NFL is evil. It's ugly. Concussions are killing players left and right. and it's terribly violent, and it's all full of men. There's too much testosterone going on in the NFL, and we really should eliminate it. That said, obviously, who's the primary audience for the NFL? Would you suspect it's people on the left? No. Moderates? Certainly. People on the right who've enjoyed watching the NFL for years and years and years? And the answer is yes. So by suggesting that, I submit that that's a bit of insight that doesn't just apply to the NFL. But as you indicate, it applies to so many other aspects of society, concluding that, you know what? A lot of people are just tired. They're tired of this crap. They want some escapism. The NFL and the players get paid great money because we look to them to escape the banality of life that's going all around us, and every damn thing is politicized. And now our sports are politicized, and we can't even fucking get away from that now.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. I have to agree with you. I think you're right on that aspect. With another caveat. You tell me if you think I'm wrong. Many people now have gotten to the point where, at the conclusion of this season, folks might tune in to the Super Bowl. It's the big one. Next year, I think you're going to discover that a lot of people have gotten out of the habit of watching the NFL. Next year, September, right around there, August, September, when it comes back, next year will be the real telling phrase of whether the NFL, whether they'll survive or not. Folks, we've been talking to Kari Baxter Donovan. She is the East Coast political goddess. She works and writes 42 articles. That's a lot of writing recently. At Big League Politics. So, Kari Baxter Donovan, tell us where you can be found and read. Where are you on social media? And if somebody wants to wave hello and contact you.
Well, so I'm on Facebook and under Kari Baxter Donovan, and I'm on Twitter at Happit, HAPPIT 1776, and I love chatting with people on Twitter. It's probably the best way to find me. And, of course, at Big League Politics. So hopefully I'm going to have another article up tomorrow sometime that I'm working on. I've got two that are really good that I'm excited about that are going to come out soon. And, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't ask you this, but I'm going to anyway, because you know me. Can you give us a little bit of a hint about what the next articles coming out might be about?
So the two articles that I'm working on, one of them is on South Africa Marxism, because, again, I can't get my mind off of it, in Jesse Jackson.
Okay.
So what do those three things have in common? And I'm excited because I have an interview coming out with a gun maker, and he's made a gun that is absolutely brilliant, and every detail is absolutely fascinating to me. And it's the gun maker is Cabot, and he's made a Trump gun pistol. And so I'm interviewing him. It's going to be fantastic.
Oh, boy, is that going to light leftists up like crazy. That's going to set leftists on fire. Of course, I'm interested in that because I'm a former range master, so that's right up my alley also, so to speak. Kari Baxter Donovan, thank you ever so kindly for being on the show. I really appreciate it. It's always...
I love it. Thanks so much.
It's always a pleasure to speak to Kari Baxter Donovan.
Oh, you're so kind. And, hey, let's get Clint and Sean and you and I, and we'll have a whiskey party. We can invite Whiskey Dale. We can invite everybody, and we'll have a good time, and we'll watch and see who falls first.
That would be great. I still can't believe you threw that gauntlet down to Sackhead Sean. I'm going to have to tell him about it in the Sackhead show tomorrow.
I haven't talked to him in forever, so He'll know that I love him, and I'm just jabbing at him a little bit.
I know,
he
but
rocks. He's awesome.
I think that's great. Folks, that was Kari Baxter Donovan.
Hey.
Thank you for being on the show.
Have a great night.
Have a great night.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And we're going to come right back. We're going to talk more buttery political goodness. So don't go away. We'll be back in about 3.5 minutes. So now's the perfect time to go to the bathroom.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through SHRmedia.com, HighPlainsTalkRadio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on BlogTalkRadio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Sam on SHR Media. You can listen to my new show starting on Tuesdays in January. Get my perspective on national politics, a conservative's perspective on California politics, the latest in the war on terror, all of that and a lot more here on Tuesdays at SHR Media. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Sam_SHR Media.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m., Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch Reaver Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on SHRmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians, a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless, hope to the hopeless, clues to the clueless. Sackheads Sean, Sackheads Clint, and Sackheads BZ. The Sackheads Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern on SHRmedia.com. Watch on YouTube, Facebook, and the High Plains Pundit Network. The best in late-night conservative talk, the Sackheads Radio Show, only on the SHR Media Network.
Go ahead, I'll say it again.
Some of the best A-roll is going to be B-roll.
Like, what are you talking about?
Just the last question that you really cut a couple seconds.
Yeah, I'm a freaking artist. I can't just come up with this shit off the top of my head. Are you freaking kidding me right now?
Hey, good point. Exactly right.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint, and I'm with Sackhead Sean, Sackhead BZ. No communists allowed on the SHR Media Network.
Damn straight, mister.
Back to the show.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
You are, in fact, listening to the SHR Media Network live and direct. Go to shrmedia.com. This is me. It is I, the bloviating Zeppelin. Here at BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, you can hear me every Tuesday and Thursday of the week, starting at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, and 1927 and 3500 seconds in Bolivian time. I read certain articles by people. I'm going to give you a little bit of a heads up. Next Thursday, this coming Thursday. Now, tomorrow night is Sackheads Radio. You got to be here for Sackheads Radio. Sackheads Sean, Sackheads Clint, Sackheads moi, BZ. And Thursday night, I'll be back. Thursday night on the Saloon, it's going to be Kurt Schlichter night. I've got a backlog of Kurt Schlichter articles just to amaze and delight. There was an individual, the Hugh Hewitt Tribble Club, who turned me on to Kurt Schlichter, and I started reading all of his good stuff. You can find him. He's got tons of articles at townhall.com. So Kurt Schlichter has also written a couple of books that I would love to talk to him about, some fiction about what's happening, what could potentially happen to the United States when it goes all red, all blue, and it's damn near a civil war. Great book. I also read with great frequency a particular professor who happens to work at Fresno State University. He's a tenured professor. His name is Victor Davis Hanson. He has some excellent insight, and he writes primarily about the state of California. Some of his stuff has to do with the rest of the nation as well. But because he lives here in occupied Fornicalia, as I call it, because the SHR Media Network is, of course, broadcasting about roughly 2 miles from the state capital, the very Bill Mill, the hated Bill Mill, in Sacramento, Fornicalia. He has great articles. His newest is, and it's in WashingtonTimes.com, by the way. His newest is called Christmas Lessons from California. It's an analysis and opinion of what has been happening recently in California, and this is a cautionary tale for what's happening in the rest, across the rest of the fruited plain. If it's happening here, there guaranteed are many people that want this kind of shite to occur in your state, your community, your neighborhood, your backyard. And it goes like this. Rarely has such a naturally rich and scenic region become so mismanaged by so many creative and well-intentioned people. In California, Yuletide rush hours are apparently the perfect time for state workers to shut down major freeways to make long overdue repairs to the ancient pavement. Drive on any of California's freeways, and they're mostly all crap. Last week, I saw thousands of cars stuck in a road construction zone that was juxtaposed with a huge concrete but only quarter-built high-speed rail overpass nearby. The multi-billion-dollar high-speed rail project, stalled, and way over budget, eventually may be completed in a decade or two, but for now California needs good old-fashioned roads that don't disrupt holiday shopping before it starts futuristic projects it cannot fully fund. California's steep new gasoline tax, one of the highest in the nation, has not even fully kicked in, and yet the cash-strapped state is already complaining that the anticipated additional revenue will be too little. Let me give you a little background on that. Our gas taxes in California in November went up by roughly almost 20 cents per gallon just to go to the state of California. Our registrations for vehicles went up in November. Anywhere, depending on what kind of a vehicle you drive, commercial people are going to get hit the hardest because California, as far as it is concerned, if you're involved in commercial driving in any fashion, you're just a big pocket that California needs to sink its little grubby hand into and pull out as many dollars as it can. The thing that is very irritating about this in terms of California, and this is me commenting, not Victor Davis Hanson, we'll get back to him, is the fact that when this was passed, again, in the dark of night, And did the folks get to vote on this? No, we didn't get to vote on this. Of course not. This was just ding from on high. You will be charged more money. But it shouldn't have occurred in the first place because we are already paying more taxes than any other state. And what we discovered later is that those taxes that we paid for infrastructure, roads, etc., got stuck into the general fund. What does that mean? BZ says this: the general fund is this big bag from which any leftist gets to suck out cash, and it was not specifically, although we were told and we were sold on the fact that it was going to go, it was earmarked just for infrastructure, roads, etc. It's a gas tax, so therefore it should go to highway construction, reconstruction, rebuilding, paving, etc. No, it went into the general fund, and then any leftist who wanted to could go, hey, that's some really attractive looking cash there. I need it. And so they took it. Now we have another gas tax just passed in November last month. And now California is saying, wait, that's not enough. We didn't tax you enough. Like I said, now some officials also want to consider taxing motorists for each mile they drive on the state's antediluvian roads. Nature this year is predictably not cooperating with California. Well, stop. What do good little leftists do in this state? They do what the government tells them. What has the government been saying in California for years and years and years? Why, you ought to be driving an electronic car. You should be driving a hybrid car. You should be saving fuel. You should be purchasing these kinds of cars because California has already said that by the year 2040, it wants to eliminate petroleum-fueled automobiles completely. No gasoline vehicles allowed in the state of California, not just in, London or New York City. The entire state of California, that's the goal. Well, good little leftists, in anticipation of this, initially started purchasing their hybrid Priuses by the arseload. Of course, though, they destroy the environment far worse because of their lithium-ion batteries and other battery packs that strip nature, and it turns out that the production of, say, a Prius is much more damaging to the environment than if you went trotting down and purchased an H1 or an H2 Hummer. By the way, the likes of which they don't make anymore for commercial consumption. So all these leftists are driving Priuses, electric cars, etc., hybrids. Well, California taxes gas. If you save on gas, then that's chop at their bottom line, which is why California is now thinking, ooh, we need more money. So that's why Victor Davis Hanson writes, officials want to consider taxing motorists for each mile they drive on the state's antediluvian roads. In most areas of the Sierra Nevadas, the state chief source of stored water, by the way, where I live up in the Sierra Nevada mountains at about the 4,000-foot level off Interstate 80, there's not a drop of snow on the ground. And that is true. We had a great snowfall last year. Right now, to date, not so much. In the ski areas, maybe 3 inches. Kids can go tubing, and that's about it. The rest of the runs that are not producing man-made snow, they don't have crap on the ground. The High Sierra so far this year looks more like Death Valley than Alpine Switzerland. The last 2 months of California weather were among the driest autumn months on record. Unless 2018 is a miraculously wet year, California will find itself on the cusp of another existential drought. Yet California politicians are currently obsessed with the usual race, class, gender agendas, as Sacramento broadcasts that California is sanctuary state except from federal immigration laws. Now, periodically, Governor Jerry Brown, in prophetic Old Testament style, offers rebukes of President Trump as Mr. Brown tours the globe as a commander-in-chief of California. But meanwhile, in the real dry world, did Mr. Brown's state prepare for such a disaster during either its recent 4-year dry spell or its near-record wet year in 2016? Hardly. Over some 50 consecutive months of drought, California did not start work on a single major reservoir, though many had long ago they'd been planned and designed. Instead, given the lack of water storage capacity and due to environmental diversions, tens of millions of acre-feet of precious runoff water last year were simply let out to the ocean. My, that's intelligent, considering California's in a drought, and it's going to be, and always has been, in one form or another, a perennial drought. This is nothing new. Hell, back in the 20s and the 30s and 40s, remember the movie Chinatown? Remember Cadillac Desert, that book? California has, for a good deal of California, is desert. Hello. This year, the state may want all of that water back. Silicon Valley is the state's signature cash cow, emblematic of progressive, cool culture and tech savvy. Yet many streets around high-tech corporate campuses are lined with parked Winnebagos that serve as worker housing compounds. In nearby Redwood City, World War II-era cottages have become virtual hostels. Trailers, tiny garages, and converted patios serve as quasi-apartments. California may offer the world a smartphone app for every need, but it cannot ensure affordable shelter for those who help to create the world's social media outlets and smartphones. How can smart be so stupid? Flights over California's coastal corridor this autumn offered a scene out of Dante's Inferno. Fires seem to engulf entire populated hillsides from Los Angeles and Santa Barbara to Santa Rosa. The fires were testament to the fact that a vast majority of blue state California lives on a thin strip of ecologically sensitive land near the Pacific Ocean. The coastal corridor cannot sustain the 30 million or so residents who cluster there without massive water transfers, excellent freeways, daily rail and truck importation of food, fuel, and construction materials. Stop. I don't know if he's going to get into this, but I'm going to go into it right now. California is fucking insane. Well, I'm not telling you anything that you didn't already know inherently. California wants to go to all-electric cars by 2040. Does anyone see a problem with this? You see, because one of the ways that we get power in the state of California is by, anyone? Bueller? Water power. So when water power goes down because we don't get much rain, because California is essentially in many areas a desert, where does California think that it's going to get the power to light up all the electricity that it wants to provide to people in California itself? In other words, we haven't built an electrical generation station in literally decades in the state of California. Yet by 2040, California wants all electric automobiles. Hello, California. If you want it, where are you going to get it? Because you're not building any infrastructure at all. So I guess maybe they think that, I know, we'll rely on the goodness and kindness of states around us to ship us more electricity, when they could be building their own infrastructure. But, that might harm the ecological sensitivities of leftists, millennials, snowflakes, Gen Zers, etc. It's okay if we destroy somebody else's state so that electricity gets shipped over here, no problem. Because we're better than you. We're going to be running on electric vehicles. Now, we're not going to build any electrical generation stations. But we need the electricity anyway, so hello, where you going to get the power? Hidden behind Tony homes are tent cities and the open fires of homeless people who camp out in ravines. The hillsides are overgrown with drought-stricken scrub and half-dead trees, in part due to restrictions on grazing, brush removal, and logging. They prove to be a veritable kindling that fuels raging fires. Stop. I get charged a healthy tax because I live where I live. I pay extra to live in the Pines. Been living there for quite some time. Now, California doesn't mind sending me a bill every year for firefighting. And Lord knows that California has been fighting fires for quite some time. Then that makes you wonder, does it not, that California then subsequently must have an excellent forest management system. Bullshit. California has not managed its forests for years. I can take you out to any portion of the forest near me, and you walk into the forest a little bit, and I'll show you a minimum of a foot to a foot and a half, or perhaps in some places 2 feet of deadfall and loam, meaning that you may as well take little cotton balls and strew them around, because that's what great tinder that shit is. You cannot log, California, and you cannot log deadfall. You cannot take down dead trees. You might disturb the environment and the little buggies that live in dead trees. So is it any shock that everything in a drought, because we know that California goes from drought to drought to drought to drought. It's in a fucking desert. So you would think that the logical thinking individual would have forest management on their minds, but they don't give a shit about it. Or you, in Napa, burned everything away. Santa Rosa, gone. Napa, gone. Ventura County, gone. Santa Barbara, gone. Burned almost to the ocean. The fire still blazing down there is the #1 largest fire in the history of California. And do you think they're going to learn anything from this? Do you think someone, Jerry, will wake up tomorrow morning and say, wait, I've had an epiphany. I know we need better forest management. And while I'm at it, because this drought thing seems to be a recurring theme, we must build some more dams and reservoirs. Oh, no. You must disabuse yourself of that thought. Because certainly Jerry Brown and all the leftists in California, they are disabusing themselves of that crazy-ass notion. Coastal California is hilly, difficult to build on, and prone to devastating earthquakes. It is semi-arid without much of an aquifer. The life-giving watershed of the Sierra Nevadas is more than 200 miles away, meaning this: at least BZ gets his water before you get your water down in the flats. I have water all the time. You, not so much. Do you think that might be one little winky business reason well, why BZ moved up there at least 20 years ago? Perhaps. What are the lessons for the nation from these random glimpses of 21st century fornicalia? Fix pre-modern problems before dreaming about postmodern solutions. Loudly virtue signaling about addressing misdemeanors does not excuse quietly ignoring felonies. Learn how an entire culture is fed, housed, and fueled before faulting those who address such needs. Adopt a little humility in admitting that most of the state is an artificial construct of affluent millions living in a delicate ecosystem where nature never intended them to cluster. Impossible without constant multi-billion-dollar investments in water, agriculture, housing, transportation, and, Victor, I'd add this: power generation. Highly critical, highly important. Remember that voting progressively in the abstract does not automatically translate into living progressively in the concrete. And Victor Davis Hanson, by the way, is a classicist, and he is an historian, and he's with the Hoover Institution, and he's at Stanford University now. And I thought originally it was Fresno, but no, not so much. I talked about the wildfires. The wildfires are still continuing to scorch and screw up California's earth and its air. It's the number one wildfire around. The smoke has been crazy. The smoke is not stopping. And California is right in the thick of it. So, again, let that be a cautionary tale for you, because what is happening in California is a microcosm of what, as I said, leftists want you to endure in your state. Don't let your state Californicate. Maybe that should be a bumper sticker. Anyway, that's why I call it, and I've always called it since I became politically aware, Fornicalia, because California fucks over everything with which it comes in contact. And you can clearly see this. Now, we were talking about taxes, and the Republicans finally got a win on this tax bill, and that Obamacare mandate went away. And I don't know if you know this or not, but there were a few other things that went in there as well. The massive tax overhaul is coupled with a repeal of Obamacare, a great thing, and the individual mandate. And by the way, the authority to drill for oil in remote Anwar. So while leftists said no drilling, and it would appear that President Trump is on his way to refuting and repealing all the legacy stuff that Barack Hussein Obama decided he was going to predicate his historic 2 terms on. If you don't read lidblog.com, written by Jeff Dunitz. Jeff asked me on the show tomorrow, and unfortunately I can't do it. I've got some stuff to do tomorrow. But you must read lidblog.com. He wrote a particular article not long ago entitled Senator Schumer Steps in a Major Pile of Political Doggy-Doo After Tax Bill Passes. A great article, I might say. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer never met a GOP program he liked. I do believe if President Trump found a way to end all war, Schumer would complain that not enough people were dying and the earth was getting too crowded. Most of the time, he flies off the handle to criticize a bill, speech, or policy before it's written. He's been a big opponent of the tax plan, going with the standard liberal argument that every tax cut ever done favors the rich and doesn't help the economy. Of course, he's ignoring the tax cut pushed by John F. Kennedy and the one by Ronald Reagan, which each brought a period of prosperity to the economy. As is his usual habit, immediately after the House voted a second time to approve the tax bill, he didn't wait to start criticizing, and that was his big mistake. Schumer found a TV camera and started bloviating. Thanks, Zepp. Thanks, Jeff. And that when he soiled his shoes with doggy turds, he started to attack the bill and denied that corporations would use the tax savings to increase salaries or hire more people. And as an example, old Chucky Schumer decided that he was going to single out that evil corporation, AT&T. Here's a quote. I love the example of AT&T. Over the last 10 years, AT&T has paid an average tax rate of 8% a year. They have 80,000 fewer employees today than they had then. Tax breaks don't lead to job creation. They lead to big CEO salaries and money for the very, very wealthy. Really?
Corporations are flush with cash right now.
Right.
The stock market's booming. Job creation isn't. Look at all the companies that have already said they're going to use their tax break for stock buybacks,
right,
for dividends that don't affect average Americans. And I love the example of AT&T. Over the last 10 years, AT&T has paid an average tax rate of 8% a year. They have 80,000 fewer employees today than they had then. Tax breaks don't lead to job creation.
Really?
They lead to big CEO salaries and money for the very, very wealthy.
Okay, so we're going to hold it with that. We got one more segment coming up. We're going to go to a break, and then there might be some, you might suspect that there's some information that BZ has that might tend to refute some of that. Well, yes, and that's why you listen to me.
Folks, you're listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin on the SHR Media Network, and this is, in fact, if it's Tuesday, it's not Belgium, it's the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Thanks for being in chat, listening, and thanks for watching. Be right back.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Good evening. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is featured on the SHR Media Network every Tuesday and Thursday night for 2 hours at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific. Whilst manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ continues to radically change the world of leftists, one diaper at a time. Stop balancing your checkbooks. Stop cleaning your fish tanks. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is your magnet for truth, justice, obesity, a darkened studio, and late-night freedom. No United States of America freedoms were abridged in the making of this ad.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians, a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless, hope to the hopeless, clues to the clueless. Sackheads Sean, Sackheads Clint, and Sackheads BZ. The Sackheads Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern on SHRmedia.com. Watch on YouTube, Facebook, and the High Plains Pundit Network. The best in late-night conservative talk, the Sackheads Radio Show, only on the SHR Media Network.
Go ahead, I'll say it again.
Some of the best A-roll is going to be B-roll.
Like, what are you talking about?
Just like the last question we really cut in a couple seconds.
Yeah, I'm a freaking artist. I can't just come up with this shit off the top of my head. Are you freaking kidding me right now?
Hey, good point. Exactly right. Oh, God.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on SHRmedia.com.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through SHRmedia.com, HighPlainsTalkRadio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on BlogTalkRadio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Sam on SHR Media. You can listen to my new show starting on Tuesdays in January. Get my perspective on national politics, a conservative's perspective on California politics, the latest in the war on terror, all of that and a lot more here on Tuesdays at SHR Media. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Sam_SHR Media.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch Reaver Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on SHRmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint, and I'm with Sackhead Sean, Sackhead BZ. No communists allowed on the SHR Media Network.
Damn straight, mister.
Back to the show.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
It's the last segment. You're listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show.
We heard Kari Baxter Donovan earlier. Now we're talking politics. We were talking whiskey and politics. Now we're just talking politics. And some funny, odd, and perhaps what you might term ill-timed hypocrisy from the leftists, because just as little Chucky Schumer was saying, this tax cut isn't going to do a damn thing, well, unfortunately...
It's been an amazing experience, I have to tell you. Hasn't been done in 34 years, but actually really hasn't been done because we broke every record. It's the largest, I always say the most massive, but it's the largest tax cut in the history of our country. And reform, but tax cut.
But
really
wait.
Something special.
But wait, there's more, right?
And I noticed this just came out 2 minutes ago. They handed it to me. AT&T plans to increase U.S. capital spending $1 billion and provide $1,000 special bonus to more than 200,000 U.S. employees, and that's because of what we did. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And I have a whole list of accomplishments that the group behind me have done in terms of this administration and this Congress, but you've heard it before. Records all over the place, and that will continue, and then some because of what we did.
And Jeff Dunnett's writes, as if Senator Schumer's shoes didn't reek of dog-do enough, USA Today reports that other companies now are joining in on the fun. Fifth Third Bancorp, a regional bank based in Cincinnati, said it will raise the minimum wage for all its nearly 3,000 hourly employees to $15 and would distribute a one-time bonus of $1,000 for more than 13,500 employees by the end of the year if the bill is signed by December 25th, which it was. Wells Fargo also said it would boost its minimum wage to $15 per hour, an 11% increase from its current hourly rate of $13.50 an hour. Once the law was passed, the pay raise would go into effect March 2018, the company said. Boeing said it would move forward with $300 million in investments as a result of the new tax law, including $100 million in employee training and education and $100 million to enhance Boeing facilities as part of its Workforce of the Future initiative. Media and cable company Comcast said it would award special $1,000 bonuses to more than 100,000 eligible employees. I'm assuming they're talking about the employees that haven't been fired because of sex scandals. The company, which also owns NBC Universal, said it also expects to spend more than $50 billion over the next 5 years investing in infrastructure to improve and extend broadband plant and capacity, and its television, film, and theme park offerings. Also, thank you for removing net neutrality, because now these companies don't mind throwing some cash in development in R&D. Perhaps, as Jeff writes, next time Schumer will realize that he's an American first and a Democrat second, and instead of rushing to hate a Republican legislation, he'll just chill for a while and maybe see if what his political opponents were saying was actually true. And while you're at it, push up your glasses. You look like a 90-year-old schoolmarm. And isn't that funny? While we happen to be on the topic, and Jersey Joe kind of touched on this in his show earlier, just before mine. You got to watch, and listen to Jersey Joe. He's on Monday through Friday. He starts at 6 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. And he's a great guy to listen to. He's on 2 hours every night. And I start at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Here's an article. CBS News decided that they were going to hire an accountant that was going to test this tax reform stuff, because they just knew, CBS News, that it's going to turn out to be absolutely terrible for everybody. Right? So they're going to, CBS News wanted to do is just smash this crap right back in Donald Trump's face.
Most Americans will
right?
get a tax cut next year under the plan Congress passed this week. But figuring out exactly how much your family will save is tricky. Republicans say a typical family of four earning $73,000 a year will see taxes drop by more than $2,000.
We wanted to see how folks will actually fare. So we asked households from 3 different parts of the country to send us their tax returns, and then we had an accountant calculate how things will change for each of them.
Okay, so the places that they were sent tax returns from were California, North Carolina, and Rhode Island.
Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
As Republicans sent the tax bill to the White House, Marcy George wondered if it would make a difference in her house.
It didn't seem as they were going along that it would really affect someone like me.
A single mother who rents a home in Cary, North Carolina, her income last year as an administrative...
Okay, so get it? She's a single mother and she's a renter. She's someone that the leftists absolutely target, without a doubt, without fail.
Assistant was a little under $40,000.
Financially, I struggle. I live paycheck to paycheck. I make things work. I readjust and rearrange, but we do get by.
So will getting by get any easier? We brought her 2016 tax return to Jeffrey Levine, a certified public accountant at Blueprint Wealth Alliance on New York's Long Island.
If she were your client, what would you tell her?
I got good news for you, Marcy. You're getting more money back next year.
He says she'll benefit from a doubling of the child tax credit, and based on her returns last year, he estimates a savings of about $1,300 in taxes.
That would be more that I would be seeing in each paycheck, so
Nice.
That would be a good thing.
Amber and Jason Edwards were also hoping for some good news.
I hope it alleviates, pressure on the middle class.
Okay, this is a married couple. The lady that you were talking to, that was talking before, was black. This is a couple, married, white, and one of them is a college professor.
Whether it does or not, I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
They're married homeowners with no kids in Providence, Rhode Island. As college educators, they took in more than $150,000 last year as they worked to pay down their student loans.
Financially, we're doing okay. We're certainly, not at the poverty level or anything of that nature.
Jason, who blogs about their finances, wanted to know how things would change.
I actually think they would pay tax on about $12,000 more of income, but because of the lower rates, they actually end up saving a little bit of money.
The Vine says the couple
Listen to this.
will switch to the newly increased standard deduction, which means a simpler return with no itemized deductions. He thinks they'd owe about $650 less than before.
Honestly, I'm a little surprised because
$650 less, and they make combined $150,000.
well, what you had said initially, you thought we were going to have a higher tax bill.
Right. They're not the only ones. Melissa and Lane Lev also expressed concern about next year's taxes.
I'm thinking they're going to be higher, and by how much,
Now, these folks are married. They are a small business owner.
I don't know if I could answer that. I'm just thinking they're going to be higher.
Married with 3 children, they own a home in Fresno, California. They opened a cycle studio last year, and Melissa is a pharmaceutical sales rep. Their combined income in 2016 was around $300,000.
We were doing well enough to take a risk and open up a small business in our town.
It's definitely hard work and definitely a lot of stress when we have so much of our worth on the line, so to speak.
Right, because you have to remember that business owners, especially in California, well, hell, business owners anywhere, they are evil. They are evil. Corporations are evil. Business owners, big and small, are evil. They're evil. Business owners are out just to screw everyone. Question for everyone. When was it that a poor man gave a paying job to someone? Let me think about that.
Lane and Melissa are from California, very high income tax state. So there are a lot of people worried, oh my goodness, this is really going to hurt me.
They thought it was going to be a big bill.
I'm not surprised. It actually is really going to help them, though.
Levine says their itemized deductions, including breaks for state and local taxes, will be much lower. But they'll no longer be hit with the alternative minimum tax and will now qualify for child tax credits when they didn't before. Overall, he estimates they'll be responsible for nearly $13,000 less in taxes.
And these are people, by the way, that are providing jobs to Americans. They are small business people. They are making a payroll, providing jobs to their local folks.
Well, that's good.
I like the sound of that. Can I get the accountant's number after this?
So wait a minute. So all three families that we brought to you, they're all going to see a decrease in their taxes.
Every single one of those families will have more money in their pocket next year.
That's absolutely amazing. But listen to this. Now, weren't we talking about Nikki Haley? Yes, we were. And we were talking about her, if I can get this thing queued up, about the UN. Let's listen to this piece about Nikki Haley and some of the things that she said about the U.S. and the UN.
Nikki Haley vowing to punish the nations who voted to condemn President Trump's Jerusalem decision. Griff Jenkins joins us live now from Washington with the details as the Middle East calls for, some nations in the Middle East call for another day of rage. Hey, Griff.
Now, trust me, I'm going somewhere with this, so kind of roll with me. We went from United States stuff to stuff that's going on at the UN. Like I say, roll with me on this, because I'm going to kind of wrap this up with a point tonight.
Hey, Rob, that's right. Good morning. There are calls for another day of rage in the Palestinian territories and Arab cities across the Middle East following a vote at the United Nations on a mostly symbolic declaration condemning President Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. As our ambassador, Nikki Haley, blasted nations who voted against the U.S. and warned there will be a price to pay.
This is great, which is why I love this cut and I want to play it.
The United States will remember this day in which it was singled out for attack in the General Assembly for the very act of exercising our right as a sovereign nation. We will remember it when we are called upon to once again make the world's largest contribution to the United Nations.
But that didn't stop the Palestinian Prime Minister Riyad al-Maliki from calling on member nations to take a stand.
I call upon you on behalf of the Palestinian people to vote in favor of the draft resolution in order to make heard the voice of a firm right that cannot be denied.
In the end, 128 countries voted to condemn the U.S., while only 9 supported. There were 35 abstentions. And 121 of those 128 nations got a combined $21.8 billion in U.S. economic and or military aid in fiscal year 2016. Those 121 countries accounted.
Now, hold that thought. Hold that thought.
For nearly half of all U.S. foreign aid. You see here the top 5 countries.
By the way, in terms of the UN recipient, the biggest UN recipients of U.S. aid are Iraq, $4.3 billion, Afghanistan, $4.2 billion, Egypt, $1.3 billion, Jordan, $1.2 billion, Pakistan, $988 million. Well, wait, BZ. Those are all countries that love us, don't they?
Of those 121, all Muslim or Arab nations: Iraq, Afghanistan, Egypt, Jordan, and Pakistan.
And I forgot they also have that in common. So we hate Muslims, don't we?
Pakistan among the top 10.
Fiscally, I guess we don't.
And actually, Rob, only one did not participate in this vote. That was Kenya. We are hearing about these protests. We're monitoring it in Malaysia. The Prime Minister leading one of those to stand in solidarity with Palestine. But so far, no images that we can bring to you.
Okay, we will certainly keep an eye on it, Griff. Thank you so much.
Okay, but here's the best part, because this just occurred. Now, it kind of seems like a bit of a drop in the bucket, but you'll soon see that
North
it's
Korea as Russia offers to host peace talks. President Trump.
Quiet. You're disturbing me. Anyway, there's more to this story. Calling it a step in the right direction, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, on Sunday, just this past Sunday, announced an historic reduction in the UN biennial operating budget. Haley said the plan calls for a $285 million cut to the 2018-19 fiscal year. She says, quote,
The inefficiency and overspending of the United Nations are well known. We will no longer let the generosity of the American people be taken advantage of or remain unchecked. This is historic. This is unprecedented. It has never occurred before. You may or may not know, but I believe you suspect that overall, the United States is responsible and has been taking it upon itself to pay 22% of the entire bill of all the freight for the United Nations. And by the way, the United States, you, me, we pay for 28% of the peacekeeping budget. A massive nation like China, well, they'd be right up there too, wouldn't they? No. China pays 8% overall, and that's it. So this is a trend. This is definitely a trend. She also said, this historic reduction in spending, in addition to many other moves towards a more efficient and accountable UN, is a step in the right direction. This is a story. We're going to be transitioning over to another story. I've got about 8 minutes left before the end of the show. Kim Jong-un, and I have an idea why this happened, because all sorts of other stories were going on. But you need to know this, because I'm going to go into another story that buttresses what I'm about to tell you. This is from the UK Daily Mail. Kim Jong-un is testing new warheads loaded with anthrax for his intercontinental ballistic missiles, South Korea warns. So, he doesn't even have to put a nuclear warhead at this point, though people suspect that he can, that he has that capability. All he has to do is load weaponized anthrax into his warheads and send them all across the planet. He can reach the east coast of the United States now with his missiles. According to South Korean intelligence, North Korea is conducting experiments. Kim Jong-un's regime is looking at putting anthrax warheads on missiles. North Korea has tested missiles which it claims could hit the east of the U.S., as I indicated. The regime is facing new sanctions as a result of its missile testing. North Korea is conducting biological weapon experiments to test the possibility of loading anthrax-laden warheads on its ICBMs. It has been reported. Japan's Asahi newspaper reported on Wednesday, citing an unidentified person connected to South Korean intelligence, that North Korea was conducting biological weapons experiments to test the possibility of loading anthrax-laden warheads on its ICBMs. Now, with that in mind, check this out. Oh, you silly... Okay. One moment, please. The trouble is not in your set. We're going to have to re-log this. And here we go. Hello. Here we go. It's up to you.
Going to beef up their nuclear arsenal as nations around the world warn them it's time to stop. Dictator Kim Jong-un telling scientists he wants to increase the quality and number of deadly weapons. But Secretary of State Rex Tillerson says now is the time for diplomacy.
We're ready to talk anytime North Korea would like to talk. And we're ready to have the first meeting without precondition. It's not realistic to say we're only going to talk if you come to the table ready to give up your program. They have too much invested in it.
Last month, North Korea launched its most advanced missile yet, potentially capable of striking anywhere in the U.S.
Okay, but here's the headline. Here's the story within the story that I needed to tell you about. Good evening. Good evening. It's Mark Stein, but we don't want to hear from you right now. The headline is North Korean defector had anthrax antibodies in his system, a report said. Traces of anthrax antibodies were discovered in the system of a North Korean soldier who had defected to South Korea at some point in 2017, a local South Korean television station reported Tuesday. The soldier's name and exact date of defection were not disclosed, but the defector is said to have been exposed or vaccinated for anthrax, a serious bacteriological disease, UPI reported, citing Channel A. They reportedly became immune to the disease before defection. Anthrax antibodies have been found in the North Korean soldier who defected this year, according to an unnamed South Korean official speaking to Channel A. That's called a clue. That's called very important. Now, I think we can wrap up with this. I wanted to talk about some local things, but I also wanted, because the media is not letting you know what's going on worldwide. That's why I want to let you know what's going on worldwide. And I think I got enough time to give you this final story. All the Democrats, the leftists, the American media maggots are insisting on telling you, and I've got trolls up the arse who are trying to tell me that there's nothing wrong. The only thing wrong is Donald Trump. And Trump, by the way, is obviously Putin's poodle, right? He does everything that Putin says for him to do, except when, Donald Trump is raining missiles in Syria and killing Syrians and maybe a couple of Russians at the same time. I guess that's not quite so poodle-like. And, oh, by the way, just to let you know, Donald Trump recently said that Barrett can sell its rifles, its It's M140, I think, A1, to Ukraine. Now, why is that significant? You say, it's just a rifle. Well, if you're familiar, it's also Barrett's 50 caliber scoped rifle, where you can reach out and hit and touch anyone you wish, easily up to 1,000 yards. But, we're Putin's poodle, and we certainly wouldn't want to get involved in the Ukraine, would we? I don't know why I just called it the Ukraine, because it's Ukraine. Here's another story. This is from the Boston Globe that kind of conveniently got pushed to the side. And again, once I read this to you, you will understand that the leftists, Democrats, and American media maggots are all correct, because Donald Trump is, in fact, Putin's poodle. The headline reads, U.S. agrees to send lethal weapons to Ukraine, angering Russia. No, that can't be true. Washington, the Trump administration has approved a plan to provide lethal weapons to Ukraine, a long-awaited move that deepens Americans' involvement in the military conflict and might further strain relations with Russia. But wait, he was Putin's poodle. That just can't be right, can it? No, of course not. Correct?
Monsieur has unlocked!
Oh, I love stories like that. Yeah. Folks, it's been another great show. Thanks for listening live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon right here on the SHR Media Network. Not work? Yes, it works. It doesn't not work, it works. If you want to contact me, you can find me at my blog, bloviatingzeppelin.net. You can send me an angrygram at shrmedia.com. Promotional consideration is also by Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works and the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. And, of course, Pratt & Whitney Engines. Thrust, you can trust. Thanks. Very, very warm thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle 1 refueling team, with whom I will be consorting shortly, guaranteed within the hour. Thanks to Kari Baxter Donovan for appearing on the show tonight. Thanks to you for listening. Thanks to you for being in chat. Thanks for listening live. Thanks for listening in podcast. Tomorrow night, Sackheads, right here. Thursday night, it's Kurt Schlichter. Folks, God bless. Take care. Merry Christmas.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.